Okay, I am going to explain how to answer ESS questions. This is a rubric from the actual exam for any questions that are 9 points. So you will have to write 2 of these essays on the real exam. Okay, you'll be given a choice of 4. So of the 4 questions, you'll pick 2. Okay, each question is 3 parts. The third part uses this rubric. There's a good rubric to use for everything when writing your responses to ESS. So things I want to point out first is basically look at the first strand for each one. Minimal evidence, some evidence, substantial evidence. This is the first thing I'm going to look for in your essay. Is there evidence minimal, some, or substantial? Okay? Another thing I'm going to look for after when I read your question is, notice it says ESS terminology. Okay? So I'm going to highlight that. So it says some appropriate, largely appropriate, and consistently appropriate. Sometimes you guys use vocabulary words that you're not using it in the correct way. Okay? Another important strand on this list is going to be examples. So no examples, insufficient explanation or relevance. Some use of relevant examples with limited explanation. And to get a 7-9, you got to use effective use of pertinent, well-explained examples required, showing some originality. This is one of the hardest things to get to because you want to show originality. Okay? The next thing you want to do, the last one you want to focus on is your analysis and your judgment or conclusions. So this is superficial analysis, clear analysis, well-balanced, insightful analysis. Okay? You must give good thought processes. You must show this in your writing. Okay, so that means you gotta explain it. You gotta show your rationale. In your EE, there's a thing when we're doing your EE, or just writing in general. It's called PEE. So you have your P, which is you make your point, and then you have your example. Okay, and then you explain. Okay, so whenever when you're writing, you want to make your point, you want to give an example, and you want to explain your example. Okay, the last thing you guys need to do in your essay is look at this. Explicit judgment conclusions are well supported by evidence that include critical reflection. All right. So when I read your essays, generally what I look for is I look for what mark band you're in. So right away after I read your essay, I know, are you in the 1 to 3 mark band? Are you in the 4 to 6 mark band? And you are into the 7-9 mark band. That's easy to differentiate between these 3 different mark bands. The hard part is putting you where I think you best fit. So we call it best fit. So for example, if I see you're using largely appropriate terminology, and I see you using substantial evidence, right? But you just basically have no conclusion, right? So if you're mostly in the 4-6 mark band and the 7-9 mark band, but you have no conclusion, then I automatically going to drop you down to, I'm just going to give it best fit. So I'm going to give you probably a 4. Maybe a 4. Okay? If you're at 2 of these strands, I'm probably going to give you a 3. Okay? So this is just there's no math here. There's no average. I'm not averaging your scores. I'm not looking at each strand. I'm just giving you a best fit. So it's a bit subjective. It's a bit based on my opinion, but this is how I score you. So when I read your essays, I'm really going to give you just 1 or 2 comments. I'm not going to give you a bunch of comments to fix. Now, you're more than welcome to rewrite your essays, and I'll grade it, and I'll give you feedback again. So if you want to write your essay 2 or 3 times and I'll keep giving you feedback, that's fine. I'll give you 1 or 2 suggestions. You go back, fix it. I'll do it again, and I'll raise your score, because this is a long process to get to a 7-9, which is what you want. You want to be in the 7-9 mark band. You have to write really strong essays. Okay, if you write a decent essay, you're probably going to be in the 4 to 6. If you're writing a decent essay, you're going to be in the 4 to 6 mark band. And if you're just putting a minimal amount of effort into your essay, you're going to be in the 1 to 3 mark band. So let's go over command terms now. So the first command term, if you see outline, okay, or state, right? These are really simple. I'm looking for facts. So if it's outline and if it's 2 marks or if it's like 4 marks, I'm basically looking for facts, ideas, concepts. And each detail, so every fact, idea, concept, detail you give me is just going to be, simply going to be 1 mark for each one of those. Now you can't say the inverse. This is a really dumb example, but you can't say this. Let's say you say fertilizer increases growth, and then you say growth is increased by fertilizer. Now, it's a really obvious example, but you're saying the exact same thing twice. Sometimes you guys do this in your writing. You say the exact same thing in the reverse order. You're saying the inverse. You don't get 2 points for saying the same thing twice. Do not be redundant. Once you make your point, move on to the next point, okay? So every point you make, you get a mark, okay? So the next 2 command terms you see a lot of is going to be explain and describe. Now, describe means to give detail, okay? And explain means to give detail with reason. So I'm basically looking for a little bit more than just describing the details. So let's take, for example, okay, so like fertilizer, okay? What is fertilizer? Fertilizer is made of NPK, okay? It comes from manure. These are descriptions of what fertilizer is. But explain, if I'm going to explain fertilizer, I'm going to say, well, plants need raw organic matter, and fertilizer has organic matter. So I'm giving a reason for why fertilizer increases growth. So I'm describing fertilizer first. I describe what it is, and then I explain and I give a little reason why the fertilizer increases growth. So describe, give detail, explain, give detail with the reason, okay? The next 2 command terms that you guys see a lot of is discuss and evaluate, okay? Now, both of these, how are they similar? They both require pros and cons. You got to give the pros and cons, the strengths and the weaknesses. Evaluation, you have to make an evaluation, okay? So you have to say A is better than B, however, blah, blah, blah. Okay? So you got to make a claim. A is better than B. Here's my reason. So let's say you take that. So evaluation, right? A is better than B. So what are the pros and cons of A, and what are the pros and cons of B? That's what you have to do. Now, discuss. The big difference between discuss and evaluation is that you're just offering, you got to offer a balanced point of view. That's the big difference. So look, you have your point of view. So this is where that P-E-E comes into play. So you have your P, you have your E, and you make your point, you explain your point, and you give an example. Okay? And for a discussion question, just offer a balanced point of view. So show both sides of the example. Both of these command terms, you must have a concluding statement. You should start and stop your essay with the conclusion statement. And how do we know that? Well, we go back to here and we look at this. Explicit judgment conclusions that are well supported by evidence and arguments, and that include some critical reflection. Okay? This is how you answer questions for ESS.